Ahoy, my friends, Ryder here, and welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. Today, I'm going to be checking out Yuffie's new featured banner. I'm going to take a quick look at the Final Fantasy VI rerun banner as well, take a look at each of the weapons, and yeah, let's just go check it out. Alright, so I'm going to go over here to draw. Let's go over here to crossover, first and foremost, and, I checked this out in my patch updates video, but it looks like the banner is more or less pretty standard. There's an extra weapon here, which is nice for sure on this first page. As to whether or not this banner is pullable, in my opinion, guys, other than Aerith, basically all of the weapons here could be pretty easily skipped, right? Like, Sephiroth's is a 940% magic water damage. It doesn't have magic attack all on the weapon. And it's going to be outclassed. It's already limited, right? It's going to be outclassed by the next magic water weapon that comes out. Aerith's is very good. It does have her moments, but I will say that with Terra's Rod, it's not the thing you necessarily want to have equipped on Aerith. You want to typically be running other things, but it is very, very nice to have access to that high imperil across those three elements. Originally, I think that was like the main thing I wanted from this. Tifa's is great, but if you have the Bahamut Greatsword, then you don't really need it, to be honest. And to be honest, mostly what I use the Bahamut Greatsword these days for is just farming. So I don't think it's necessarily too important. And to be honest, Cloud's lock weapon, it was a hard pull back then, and I think it's still a hard pull now. I think it's better to just wait for Cloud to get exploit weakness or enfeeble on something. Maybe Cloud will get a banner next week. Who knows? Right? But we'll see. So that's basically my quick thoughts on the Final Fantasy VI rerun. I don't really think any of it is worth pulling for, especially this late in the game, guys. Typically with gacha games, you want to be looking to the future, not to the past, I would say. So I don't typically chase things that are already gone. So I think that with the 2-year anniversary right around the corner, guys, it's going to be here in September. I think that's going to be a far more effective way to spend your crystals than on this particular rerun. Now, apart from the Final Fantasy VI rerun, we have Yuffie's new banner here, which is looking absolutely exceptional. I think it's pretty clear that Yuffie is going to be, one of the main characters used in this upcoming Guild War. However, sometimes we think that characters will be absolutely used in a Guild War, and then it just doesn't pan out. I think there's a very good chance that Yuffie does see action in this Guild War, but it's hard to say. So if you are pulling her just for Guild War, I would wait a week just to see what is, what we're fighting and what the teams are going to be comprised of. This banner lasts until July 9th, so there's literally no pressure to pull. Sephiroth's lasts until June 18th, which is literally one more week from now. So for me, I'm just curious to see what the next banner is going to be. And then I guess I'll make a decision on whether I pull for Yuffie, maybe do a pull for Yuffie, go for the costume for Yuffie, I'm not really sure, or go for Cloud, or whoever it could be, right? Alright, so here we go, or Matt, right? Matt's another one that I would really, this banner is so cool. I'm just so scared about not getting his ultimate weapon. Alright, so let's check this out. Alright, so here is her costume, guys. I checked it out in the patch updates video, but honestly, I absolutely love it, dude. I think the costume is just freaking banging. Like the jacket, I love the how kind of, I don't know how you would say that. I want to say bloated. It's not really bloated, right? It's like fluffed out, right? Or like puffed out because it has like air in there. But either way, I think it's super sick. I love the top, the necklace. She's got like the choker on right here with the headphones. It's just, I mean, she looks awesome, guys. And out of all the characters, she rocks this like probably better than almost anyone else could, right? And then she's got the painted nails, she's got the black skirt, she's got the leggings and the high top black boots with the super sick guitar that she's literally throwing at her enemies like a shuriken. Like all around, it's a win. I think that this costume is just amazing. Great, great job. Props to the designer who developed this costume. Alright, now let's take a look at the costume stats. So here we have Physical and Magic Ward, Physical and Magic Defense plus 15% with the 10 points, which is a fantastic first R ability. And then for the second R ability, we get the Next Gen Arcanum with HP plus on it, which is absolutely fantastic, right? But it is locked into magic ability damage. So, comparing this to Yuffie's other costume, so if we go to the 1.5 year anniversary gear voucher, and my question is this costume worth it if you necessarily have this, right? Because this costume, you know, it has HP 5% and magic defense 15%. So you're losing the 15% physical defense, but gaining 5% HP. So a little bit of a debuff there. And then here you get the ice ability damage plus 35%. So you get the extra 5%, but you miss out on the 20% magic ability command stance at max, and then you miss out on the extra HP as well, which is definitely a lot of things to be missing out on. However, this costume will work with physical or magic setups for Yuffie. So, you know, you'll be losing out on a little bit of damage, but it doesn't really look like this new weapon for her is super focused on damage, right? So she's not going to be the main DPS of the team. She's going to be there. She's going to have exploit weakness. It does make sense that it would be Cloud because she would cover the fact that he cannot cast exploit weakness. So if he did get a Magic Ice banner next week, then she would be essentially the perfect pair for him. But would you really need this costume? I mean, like, if you're, you know, fighting to be as strong as possible, then absolutely necessarily. But for, like, the common player, right, is it something that we absolutely need? And I'm not yet convinced on that as of now. I feel like if you do have the Nanaki Mantle, then this is a banner that you could potentially skip. You can wishlist the weapon later on. You'll lose out on a little bit of her damage for sure, the HP from the costume, which is probably going to be helpful in some situation down the line. But other than that, I think you could potentially get by. And so, you know, the question is really, how much crystals do you have and how much time do we have left until Dragon Quest? But that being said, I'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. Let's take a look at the weapon. All right, so here we have the Rocker's guitar. We'll look at it at OB1. All right, so I keep on waiting for a weapon to hit to top 700 at OB10 in its natural stat. I don't think this one will do it, but we'll see. This one's 399 magic attack at OB1, 380% magic ice damage. Also, when Yuffie's HP is 50% or more, it applies exploit weakness across all allies. Now, how potent exploit weakness across all allies will be, I feel like is hard to say. Like, it depends on the situation, and I would say in more battles than less, we run a single DPS in hard fights. So exploit weakness on all allies when you're only running one DPS is not going to be as valuable, right? Now we have things like, you know, we have supports and healers now getting Arcanum costumes and weapons that do damage, not like a great amount of damage, but they still do damage. So it does look like the game is kind of moving towards this direction where it's just strengthening the entire party. But how relevant this will be in which circumstances is a little bit tricky to say. So I think the safe thing is to just like guaranteed wishlist this. But if you're looking to get this now, this looks like it's going to be something that is going to be, you know, primarily used for the next Guild War. They've been trying to do 2 banners for a Guild War, which personally I think is overkill. We don't need to do that. I think it should just be 1 banner for the Guild War, and that's it. There's already enough things separating players. We don't need more. But other than that, for the Guild War, I think this is going to be great. But it's hard to say if we would still use her. So I think that if you are pulling for the Guild War, I think in almost any situation or most situations, it's pretty safe to wait till next week to pull this. But if you love Yuffie, if you have the extra crystals saved up and you're amped on Guild Wars always, then yes, it's an absolute fantastic choice, I would say. Alright, so let's take a look. It also increases the command gauge potency by 10% here. Which is going to allow her to get that maxed faster while casting exploit weakness, and then she can go straight into her ultimate weapon, Conformer, and so it's just going to be a really, really good pair overall for Yuffie. For the R abilities, they are standard. I believe they're 46 over 39, magic attack over magic ability potency, which is great. I'm fine with that. And then we have the double magic attack boost and the circle sigil boost. All right, so let's take a look at OB6 now. All right. Because, I mean, I should say that anyone pulling on this banner, I feel like, you know, you're going to the costume and you're getting out of the banner. So, you know, it's not like I'm going to talk about should you pull for OB6, should you not. I think you go to the costume, you take what you got, you wishlist the rest of the weapon. For me and for a lot of players. But if you're amped on it, like I said, have fun, and I wish you guys the best of luck. All right, so OB6, 627 magic attack, so it went up a lot, so there's a chance we could break 700 on that, but I doubt it. it's going to go from 380% to 500% magic ice damage. The threshold for 50% doesn't change. It applies exploit weakness, which the potency will go from 20% to 30%. So it is going to be better at OB6, but it does not change after OB6 to OB10. All right. Duration 30 seconds. Let's see OB1, duration 25 seconds. So it is a little bit longer. And the increased command gauge does not actually, oh, it does change. It's 10% at OB1, 20% at OB6, 20% at OB10. All right, and then at OB6 we have 40 over 27 right here. Honestly, I think for a weapon like this, OB7 is like the sweet spot because it'll boost this magic ability potency from 27 to 33, which typically breaks thresholds in the back end. All right, and then taking the weapon to OB10, level 120, unfortunately, it's not even in the 690s. It's 684, but makes sense. It's not a pure DPS weapon. It goes to 600% magic ice damage. You know, just honestly, this is a great weapon. For Yuffie being like a support on a magic ice team and casting this, I mean, a lot of other, I mean, then there's also, you know, now that I think about it, like a lot of DPS have their own exploit weakness. This could save them from equipping that weapon and potentially open them up to equip a different weapon as well. However, there's the contrasting side of that, and the contrasting side of that is, you know, let's say, like, this weapon would be great for Cloud, who doesn't have exploit weakness, right? Let's say he had a magic ice weapon. But the moment that Cloud got an exploit weakness weapon, it's likely that he would just be running this. So if every DPS in the game has exploit weakness, then this weapon becomes a little less relevant, I think. And then it really just depends on what you're trying to get out of the exploit weakness across the rest of your party. You know, are you trying to, you know, strengthen the DPS of your supporters, etc. So I think this weapon will see more value earlier on, but maybe fall off later. We'll have to see. But since it's wishlistable, it's totally chill. I'm definitely going to wishlist it. So honestly, I think the weapon is pretty solid. As to whether or not people should pull, I think for me it's pretty, like, I think when you start to get closer to the collaborations, the anniversaries, we have to become more careful with our crystal spenders, unless you have the capacity to just buy some, which I currently don't. So for me, I think the easy choice is to just wait till next week and see what we got. I would like to spend eight pulls. You know, now let me see. Does this banner come with the 11 million things that's going on Matt's banner? So let's see the stamp card. It's got the 11 million download gear. So let's go back to her banner, stamp card. All right, so it does still have them as well. So like I said, I want to do 8 pulls somewhere to get Red 13's costume, because it would save me my costume voucher, right? But where to do those pulls, because Matt's banner is super tempting, Sephiroth's is so cool just for the look of it, Yuffie's is so freaking cool as well, and it looks like it'll be usable for Guild War, and then next week we might just get the main DPS for Guild War as well. So for me, it's pretty easy. July 9th it stops. I'm just going to take a week. I'm going to let the week pass. I'm going to see everyone else, and then when the next banner drops, then I'm going to decide how I'm going to do my 8 pulls, right, to get Red 13's jacket. So anyways, guys, that is my thoughts on this banner. If you guys have some other thoughts that maybe I didn't talk on, please share it down below so that other people can read those comments and come to the best consensus on what they should do with their account going forward. And like I've said before, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. I'll help you out as best I can, as I normally do. So that being said, that's going to conclude this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it today. If you did, please don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.